Round 6 matches kicking underway here in the Overwatch North American Contenders Summer Series. And Rift, it seems like a new start for them. They have a brand new way of light coming into the rest of their season. I'm Time to Light. Join alongside me here is still Twin Salty, as they will take on Amplify in our 6th round of NA Contenders play.
Yes, Amplify, who just lost an absolute worldie of a series on the main Contenders stream. 3-2 loss to Worldwide. Amplify almost pushed the reverse sweep, but Worldwide get their first win. So now we have 5 teams at 1-4. Like, that is ridiculous.
We have a way of boiling this down that we'll get to in a little bit. Let's take a look at our round 5 matches, just to give you a lowdown of how things went in our previous round. You said it, Worldwide just beat Amplify. We had the Saints beat Dragon Dance. Timeless lost another barn burner to 0-3 Splash. Pirates of Pajamas, we just saw, beat Rift in 3-1 fashion. The Good Boys took down Afterlife in unsurprising fashion. And Wisp and Strix had another 5-mapper. That one went the way of Wisp. We'll take a look at our round 6 matches now, giving you the TLDR of how things are going to go in this way. You said it. You told me who's playing on the mainstream. Was it Good Boys and Wisp? Is that who it was? Or was
no, it's Saints and Strix over on the mainstream. Yes, but Good Boys versus Wisp, Afterlife versus Worldwide in a battle, another battle of the 1-4 teams, and then Dragon Dance and 0-3 Splash. Pip is already 1-0 up on Timeless, but I got a feeling that one will be going at least a little bit further as we get now an updated look at these standings, and it is quite close at the bottom and the middle.
Yeah, this is our round robin showing our standings. Maybe if it loads. If not, we can look at our season history. And
it's stalling just like it's stalling just like Caliseo. You know, they just gotta get a good stall in there. Gotta wait 2.5 minutes. There we go. There you go.
Okay, so this is my favorite graphic that we have, because it really illustrates how much Rift have been going through it in the first 5 rounds of play. Now, for all of you who have not been taking a look at the standings, mainly because we could not show them to you, the TLDR of things is, in the 5 games that Rift have already played, all 5 of those teams are in the top 7. Strix being the lowest of them at 7. They've played them. They've played Wisp, who are also 3-2. They've played the Saints, who are 4-1. Pirates and Pajamas, who are 4-1. And 0-3 Splash, who are 5-0. Looking at this round, alongside round 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, the rest of the round robin, of the 6 teams that they will play in that time, 4 of them are currently 1-4, and the other 2, being Timeless and Good Boys, are 3-2, the lowest of the non-1-4 teams. That shows you how difficult Rift has had of a schedule in the first 5 rounds of this summer series.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it that way. Rift has had one of the roughest starts to a schedule they could have had, but that means they can really build in the second half of this round robin now against teams that are a little bit lower in the standings as of right now. Good Boys and Timeless, they don't have to play until next week, which also gives them a little bit of time to try and prep for those teams that are a little bit higher in the standings at the moment. This will be a big game for them. If they can lock this one down, if they can lock down at least, other than this game, another 2 out of the 3 of the current 1-4 teams, they put themselves in a very good position to at least make the knockouts. And from that point on, you just got to make things happen in the knockout stages. Does not matter how you did during the round robin phase of the tournament. And now, map set, Antarctic Peninsula will be our first map of the day. We actually just saw Amplify play this in map 5 versus Worldwide, so a very fresh look of how this team could look here in the cold.
Not gonna lie to you, I'm like 90% sure they played. No, it was I'm thinking of Timeless, the Timeless 0-3 Splash game. They played Lijiang. You're right.
Yeah, you were thinking of Timeless.
Yep. I was watching the other game. Anyway, yes, Antarctic Peninsula. I'm a fan. I haven't played it all that much because I do my best to not play competitive Overwatch games. I just run around and watch Overwatch esports because let's just say my desk will survive longer if I don't play competitive Overwatch games. I think we'll keep it at that for the time. As we move in to our first game of play, With Control being the start, do you have any expectations in terms of rosters, in terms of heroes to kick things underway? Any specific points on Antarctic Peninsula we're seeing, or
I'd
any
say we're
guess?
going to see a lot of Ramatra. A lot of Ramatra rush. I think we might see a little bit of the Winston dive, but I think Ram will be the one that reigns supreme here in Antarctic Peninsula, which I think it's a map that finally teams are really starting to get a good grip on. It's not, oh, this is the brand new map. We're still learning kind of where all the packs are and, the little intricacies that can be going on. I think teams know this map now because they've probably scrimmed it a ton of times, an obnoxious amount, and they are now ready to really start hitting this in competitive play. And just looking at this, like looking at these teams, especially Amplify, they're a team who's also been pushing some of the higher teams here and there in some of these games. They just haven't been able to really get it done, and now they get pushed by Worldwide in that previous series, and they get beat by the team who struggled to get a win up to this point. They were 2-12 in the map count entering today. Like that is the worst, one of the worst starts you probably could have, and yet they get a win over Amplify. They at least keep their hopes of making top 8 alive. But this is where, if you're Amplify, you need to just wash off exactly what just happened, because it is not obviously what you think is representative of you. And for Rift, you just got to show, hey, no, we just had a tough first half. We are a team that deserves to be in that playoffs. We're not going to be a team who is always on the outside looking in. And this is a way to start it.
And taking a look into specifics, if anybody does actually care about the map differentials for all of the teams that are currently at 1-4, Amplify is on the higher end of that map differential. They are 9-14, tied with Afterlife for 8th place. Rift is in an island of their own. They, you could say, are in a rift of their own. That's a terrible joke. They are 7-14 as of right now. They have a 33% win percentage in terms of maps, but their series win percentage just 20%. Not the greatest, but can still be improved upon. Again, their strength of schedule in the first 5 rounds has been the most difficult. I actually looked at it over the last minute or so. It is the most difficult by numbers of opposing teams. Not just one of the most. It is the most difficult. So being 1-4 isn't great, but is understandable. And then Dragon Dance and Worldwide, both 5-14 in their own map counts through our first 5 rounds.
So looking at Amplify, we haven't got to see them a whole lot up to this point because they were on the mainstream, like we said. This is a team, it has the potential, right? You got some of the older guard here in Tap and Doge who are very fantastic players on this team. They've been around the scene for a long time, and they will be able to try and just drag along Amplify in this. But you got to wonder, to an extent, will it actually be enough? You have a little bit of a younger team. Other than that, you got a few Dutch players in here as well. So obviously, there's no real language barrier. There might be a slight accent barrier, depending on how heavy their accents are. But this is a team that they just got to pick up the tiniest of little things. It seems like they're pushing teams here and there, just never able to really take them out. Very similar to Rift, honestly, in a lot of ways. The only game that they really got shut out was Pip when they played them 2-0, 5-3 on Numbani, granted, and 2-1 on Watchpoint Gibraltar. They were at least able to beat Afterlife, which it seems like it's this weird kind of Venn diagram of, lower teams beating each other, and now Rift want to get in on the action, try and take advantage. And even like common opponents, like we said, pretty similar results to this point.
We also just got a nice little screenshot from the in-game chat before we go over the Amplify roster. Chime just said, guys, can we just it's bedtime.
It's bedtime.
Yeah. Yeah, that is entirely fair. Look at the Rift roster. We saw 5 of these players in our previous series. Not a single sub was made, by the way. That specific roster, by the way, if anybody was looking at our previous series, was Astronex, X10, Chime, Imitra, and Abyss, with Crimson, Sugu, and Hanbei all sitting on the bench for that time. It's entirely possible they all have work. They're all just not here. They don't need to be subbed in for those specific maps. I think we will really figure out who is going to be subbed in and who just is not here for the day, because not all 8 players will show up to every single game day when we move into this next map. I think that's really where push comes to shove for Rift. If they don't win this first map, I don't like their chances for this matchup as a whole, because you're looking at Afterlife, or Amplify, not Afterlife, who is coming off of this previous matchup where they just could not win the last map. They are probably demoralized. Presumption, not guarantee. And the difficulty is you're really taking on an opponent that is not good in terms of their ranking thus far. However, thus far, Rift has still shown some strength against those good teams. If that does not start here against Amplify, I don't like their chances.
And Rift has also been... Control's been their best map type up to this point. That and Push have been their bread and butter. That's how they've been at least able to stay in series. It's quite the opposite for the other side. Afterlife have struggled on Control up to this point. The only times they have won, they only won it once, and that was Antarctic Peninsula, very first round against 0-3 Splash. Actually, twice, I should correct myself. Against Afterlife, they won 2-1 and Antarctic. So that's the only Control map they've won in its entirety of this tournament, is just Antarctic Peninsula. So that is the one grimace of hope if you are an Amplify fan. But yeah, we are still waiting on some issues, and even we're getting these screenshots. It's like the teams are ready. It's just I think we're waiting on something to get fixed.
I'm gonna leak it. I don't care. Abyss is apparently going to the bathroom. So after 15 minutes of Abyss saying, "Can we get this game started?" Abyss is ironically now the one that is not here. So we're gonna send it to a break. We're not. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Welcome to timing.
Well, we got baited. But
are we going to a map? Are we going to the game?
Yeah.
Oh, we are going to the game.
We are.
Antarctic Peninsula is actually going to start sometime in this calendar year. I cannot believe it. Everybody, shocked Pikachu faces. Cue them up, please and thank you. It is actually going to happen.
And yet Coliseum was still longer than that. Wait, it felt like? Coliseum, it felt longer, I will say. It felt a little longer.
It did. Well, that's because we were in the game.
That's true. But we go over here now. Antarctic Peninsula. We are in the map. Amplify, like we said, going to be running this Ramacha Rush. There's no reason for them not to. It's been what they've been extremely comfortable in up to this point, and they just got done playing it in their previous series on this map. Rift will at least try and start with the Winston dive. It seems to be their most comfortable comp up to this point. X10 on the Tracer, which I don't mind them trying it. They tried it early with Chime on the Tracer and then X10 on the Hanzo. It just didn't work out to the degree that they would have liked, but now X10 TP out, team sent in, and Rift get ready to take over as Amplify as well. No TP, so they'll be a little bit slower to get to that high ground.
I like these very contrasting non-tank lineups. I mean, even seeing the tank lineups is there. Not a single hero is copied from one team to the other. Buddy, the first one to fall, there's the jump into the background for X10. It's the dynamic play for the Rift DPS line versus the frontline play of Amplifies. Jump in before the first cap comes through, but after next, that consistent damage is going to be the bane of the existence of Amplify. And then Ramacha sure has the sustain to stick around. The problem is they don't have that dynamic ability that the rest of Rift have alongside Astronex to allow themselves to play for more backline pressure. X10 finding one. Shine will fall to PGE's shot from the railgun. And Amplify still haven't been able to cap even with that kill found on Shine.
But it will be Doe just running into the high ground. Abyss taken out. And I think that'll be eventually what changes it here for Amplify. They will be able to get this point capped and start taking control. Nice pick there from PGE. Sets it all up. They find Chime. And without the Sombra, it's just so hard for them to actually initiate onto the point with no hacks. And now Amplify will be able to just continue holding this high ground. Rift, no ults to really work with quite yet. Nano from Abyss, though, could lead to a late dive.
Again, forcing that Ramacha back early is the name of the game here for Rift. They can pick up an early engagement. They're in a much better spot. The problem is, if they lose one, they have many more difficulties getting back into a fight than we may see from Amplify. Tap takes a decent bit of damage, but a nice sleep will come through. And Abyss, holding that top and high ground, still hits the Bionade. Will have some difficulties. Nano now available, and they'll throw it in as Astronex just goes into the backline, will do damage, but cannot find a finish. Will still look for it on a PGE, but cannot find the kill they were looking for. Still damage done by the rest of the team. PGE finished off by Chime, of whom finds a double. A hack for a third, looking to find the kill. Instead, they will hack out the Ramacha, of whom will quickly be taken care of. Exactly what they needed on the Rift side. Everybody dives in, everybody finds damage, and everybody will help with the cap back.
And they also just draw out Blizzard. Tap tries to deal with the aggression going in, tries to solo Blizzard Astro next, but Astro has the jump shortly after, is able to get out of dodge, and nothing comes from it. Tap will now go over to the Tracer to try and get X10 a little bit more back into their place. But now the Annihilation is online here for Doge, with the Sound Barrier in tow as well, just in case they need that little bit extra help. Might be a little difficult, but hey, PGE won't be able to see it.
Imagine getting solo EMP. PGE has to be fuming right now as a Sojourn, no less. That's when they may want back there for Rift. Already seeing rallies popped. Good sleep, but that Annihilation is popped quickly so, just to allow Doge to keep themselves alive if they can do so. Hack comes through. They try to dedicate themselves onto somebody, but they cannot find a singular target to aggress upon. They don't find Chime, who translocates away safely. Abyss is, however, taken out the background, as PGE will look for this kill with an overclock, almost finds a second, but Tap steals that kill back. However, back and forth kills still favor the Amplify side. They've had difficulties capping the point, but as they take out Astronex, they will look to finish off X10, they will fall, and Amplify, after 67% attained, will cap back.
And these elongated fights, it just seems like they go on forever. First one was for Rift. This time for Amplify, as they have to use a bunch. They still have the Pulse Bomb ready to go from Tap. We'll be looking to try and find Yamitra, especially in that back line. Try and get away the break, so Abyss is open for the picking. But Nano, ready to go here in just a moment. Astro will be able to dive into the back and try and put some pressure onto PGE.
Power Boost somewhat close in their sound barrier, but really not close enough. X10 tried to jump in, but Buddy quickly takes care of them, and difficulties for Rift. Honestly, just wait for that Tracer to come back. You have to bide your time, especially now as we've officially reached that final fight territory. You have a guaranteed touch, because Chime's in that general vicinity. Abyss, as you mentioned with the Nano as well, as they will look to now engage. Everybody needs to play the game of hold W after overtime is guaranteed, and it will be. The Tracer actually the one to pick it up, and the hack from behind, Chime looking for the kill onto Power Boost, of whom is on 94% of their sound barrier. The MVP of the team will stay alive for the time being, but Buddy's now taken out. At this point, it is just save or back away for Amplify. They will choose the latter. Everybody trying to stay alive will do so for the time being, and Rift will cap back with 99 on the point.
But they know they can re-aggress very quickly here. Abyss just respawned, but it has to be the EMP from Rift.
Try it, but they'd only drop PGE. They'll be able to come back. The only ultimate currently on the board for Amplify is that sound barrier. That is the only hero that needs to be taken out if you're Rift. Everything else somewhat on the way. I think the Pulse Bomb will be a guarantee, at least at this point, for Amplify. But ultimates will not play a massive part in this final fight. They may have Primal Rage in the later stages if your Astronex trying to do damage early on. It looks like they will have it before falling down, but Power Boost needs to be able to get off that sound barrier if they can grab it. Astronex finds their Primal, will find damage on the Buddy, of whom somehow still staying alive, but Power Boost gets Ajax out of that attempted sound barrier by a hack of Chime. They'll fall shortly thereafter. PGE will find a single kill, and everybody try as they might. Amplify will still fall in the end, and Tap will touch. They will touch once more, but they will fall just the same, and Power Boost won't even get the opportunity to touch. They'll be slingshot out of thin air. Chime will commend the attempted beat of whom they hacked out of, and Rift will somehow still win the first point.
What a hack there from Chime. They saved that fight there for Rift. It did feel like it was slowly going back into Amplify's favor, but that hack turns it all the way around, and what an unfortunate Ajax there from Power Boost. We can tell Chime, they hacked them at the very beginning of the engagement. Okay, we know they have it. That's kind of what Rift was thinking at that point. And at that point, Chime just has to just follow them, no matter what. It doesn't matter what else is going on in the fight. You just try and hack them out of it if you can, and they're able to sneak it in and sneak in around victories. Now, Amplify will actually run no Baptiste. They'll actually run Buddy on the Moira instead to start. Tap as well onto the Mei to try and deal with this aggression like they did at the start of round one.
Can't say I particularly had Moira on the top of my bingo card of support players that were going to be picked up. Nice to jump in. Chime will finish off PGE. That was a first fight. I don't know how good of a first fight it was, but for some reason, Doge is also going to walk in. They'll be hacked, they'll be killed, they'll be staggered, and they will die. First cap is going to go the way of Rift this time around, and I don't know what the heck happened to Amplify, but they all just evaporated, I guess. Okay.
Just got slightly split, and the dive was just on point there from Rift. And I think maybe the quickest fight we've had all day, surprisingly enough. As no stalls, no waiting around. It's just a very clean fight. You know, Yumitra didn't have to do much. And Power Boost is just in the back. They'll get hacked, but they should be able to get out. Just trying to get something, but not able to get anything quite yet as now Amplify move in.
Asterix jumping in, looking for again an initiation off the back of a hack. 3 players hit by a Bionade, asleep as well on towards Doge, of whom they will just let slumber in the front side of that point. X10 will be that returned kill. Another hack comes through again on towards Doge, but with help from Tap, they will be able to take out the overzealous Chime and bring that Sombra to her knees. Difficulty still found, but an early Primal Rage will actually be dedicated. They try to use Nemesis Form in the background, but they actually nano out the Brig, of whom is now trying to drop down Doge. It almost works, but they have to play around the shield, and they'll do so successfully. Everybody dedicating themselves, even a nano to throw forward, but Amplify still forced back, somehow still cap the point, but they shouldn't do all that much past it. Attempted Coalescence will be hacked out of contention. The hack still lands on towards the Reaper, of whom is able to counter out that Winston. A hack on towards Power Boost wins them the sound barrier, and they still stay alive. And when the dust settles, somehow people are still fighting, and Amplify gain 25%. Okay.
That is a crazy beat. That time it actually just keeps them in it. It only lands for them and Tap, but they're able to at least win the fight. Tap now getting maybe a little overzealous here on the coast side, but that nade will fend everyone away. Annihilation on track now from Doge. The rally might just be popped just to keep everybody up and to boop them away.
Tap hacked, and Shine just runs away doing absolutely nothing off the back of their now hacked Tracer in front of him. Tap trying for aggression, it'll land, as will that Pulse Bomb. Abyss is dead, Rift now need to run for the hills. Fortnite may not be the game we're playing, but they could probably find a Rift to crawl into to get the heck out of Dodge. Nice return Pulse Bomb though, that'll be a pretty good stagger. Problem is Astronex dies as well, and that should do it on the fight. Reaper, I think a pretty good decision here for PGE, paying off in droves.
Yeah, paying off indefinitely, as they do have the Death Blossom 71% now and counting for Amplify, trying to force the 3rd round here in Antarctic Peninsula. It just seemed like no matter what, whoever is the defending team, they're able to find the smallest of gaps in the backline on the approach. That time it was Abyss, and just Tap zooms in, able to get the stick, and just sets up the rest of the fight from there, and they still have some ults to work with.
Chime very close on their EMP. They need to find a hack on towards Power Boost, and they will. Everybody jumps on, perfectly timed. A nano even to aggress just the same, and Astronex not wasting any more time. Well-timed fade away there for Buddy, but they will still fall. Annihilation dedicated, surprisingly enough. Astronex could not care less. Comes in like a meteor. May not be Doomfist, but acts just the same, and will drop down Doge. PGE soon to follow, and Rift, they counter back.
Nobody was there for that Annihilation. I think Doge thought there was more people around him than the reality actually was, and the Annihilation that could have maybe won them this next fight is out the window, and you're banking now on these double DPS ults to try and create that opening. Tap is just spamming, trying to find Chime. Little do they know, it's right behind, going to trying to hack Buddy here to see if the Coalescence is live, but they're in a great spot for this EMP. Oh my god.
They're gonna go for Power Boost only, and they landed. I think they hacked out PGE. I cannot be sure. PGE will stay alive for the time being. Problem is, when you lose Power Boost does not have the opportunity to build up the sound barrier and even have the opportunity to get Ajax in the later stages of this fight. It is officially final fight. PGE uses that Shrouded Step to get in the background. They find one. Tap finds a second. The Death Blossom and the Pulse Bomb. DPS ults paying off, but there's a return from X10. Able to drop down Doge, and an MVP level performance from Doge has now been officially just removed. Overtime switch, the point counter back, barely touching is Astronex, but they still will be able to get one off. Coalescence from the background, Astronex still alive for the time being, as are the touches from the Rift for this opportunity to get in, but everybody falls. Astronex jumped into the backline, but has absolutely no support around it, doesn't even have a jetpack to get out. as a sound barrier is dedicated just the same. It seems like it's all for naught, and they won't even have the opportunity to get back on. Asterix had to get out, and Amplify will get back in to this map as they will force the third.
Yeah, and Power Boost is just getting targeted 24/7 with these hacks. But that time around, it's actually worth it, because they only get the Lucio, but it's just early enough to where even though Amplify stall it out a little bit, Buddy actually gets hacked and killed before they can even get the Coalescence off in the beginning of that last fight. But they stall long enough, they get a nice little pick as well from Tap. And once both supports fall for Rift, it's actually amplifying the advantage because of Power Boost, being able to get back so quickly. So now as we enter in the final round, it will be Rift just conceding to this Ramada rush. So they're not going to try and run the dive here. So now it'll be Chime's turn. Instead of trying to get these hacks off all the time, instead of trying to get these walls off, that actually did make the difference over in Busan in the previous match.
I gotta say, I like this decision. They also change up some of their support line, actually all of it, and wow, quickly is Doge taken care of. Seems like first fights is the name of the game here for Rift, as they're able to pick up Doge. Point will unlock somewhat soon, but Doge won't be able to get back by the time it does. So it should be Rift again capping first, barring any miracle recontest from Amplify, and they won't even go for it.
Nope, there's no reason to. You're waiting for Doge to come back into this, and PGE almost gets picked off, but we'll be able to power slide on out before anything can happen. Now Amplify can actually have a full team fight with Doge back in the action.
PGE getting in, fully charged railgun, hits a shot but cannot find the kill. Chime, however, still finished off by that power fist of that Doge Ramatra, and that should be the rest of the fight as well. Rift show up in the first fight. The second one, however, it just seemed like they did not realize it even started. Still some level of contention for the team. They want to try and delay as much as they can, and they will. About 35% can be locked in, as Amplify will camp back.
Yeah, pretty simple there for Amplify. They find that opening pick on the Chime, who just gets a little lost in the sauce. And at that point, the rest of the kills fall their way. Abyss now has this window. Should be able to pop it early to try and create some space here for Rift. Amplify will have both DPS ultimates on their side. Coalescence as well. Soon here for Buddy is Law, and they don't have to worry about the hack anymore, so they pop it right away.
Oh, PGE already dropping Amatra. They just built up the sound barrier as well. A follow-up there from Tap, only able to drop down that immortality field, but the rest of the team just not stopping anytime soon. Nice return from Chime. Abyss finds one of their own too, but it's just not going to mean all that much. And Amplify, they win a full fight and will now take the lead by a decent margin.
And they at least still have sound barrier if they need to. Annihilation as well will be online actually for both sides. It'll be the DPS ultimates in favor of Rift, but there they bide their time. Yes, Windows popped early from Abyss, but they just hide, and X10 is able to land a nice little shot with the overclock, and the pulse bomb gets rid of that amp.
Already trying to pop Nemesis for him. It's the Blizzard used early though, and it catches him off guard. Sound barrier does get used, but I do not think it extended all the way to Doge. Apparently the only one who didn't get it or somehow still died off the back of it. Either way, the Ramatra will fall. Nobody else dying, at least not thus far, but Abyss, big kill back, your main support falling, and Tap finds a double off the back of it. The backline just collapses there for Rift, and sure, they cap the point, but at this point, who the heck cares? Asterix somehow still finds a kill. Pulse Bomb will drop them fairly low, but they'll survive through it, and Chime, with that Icicle, will dust down Tap. Still surviving on the point for the time being. Immortality Field will keep them in it, and the freeze attempted will not lock down Doge for the time being. That amplified Matrix already dedicated. Everything! Everybody presses Q!
Press Q challenge, not impossible in this one so far. Amplify, they should be able to get the flip now. Two are already gone. They will not have the Blizzard to mess with unless, no, it should get finished up here. Should take back control, but honestly, Rift get way more out of that than they should have.
I think they got like 35% off of staggers alone. I don't know how in the world Chime survived for so long. Nice help from Umitra. All in all, pretty good fight. I lost track of how many ultimates were used. That's how long the fight was run out. They even used Coalescence in the later stages.
Also attempted to use. Umitra got Ajaxed by Tap. They find it just before they hit the ground. Big reason why Amplify were able to stay in that fight, but because of how crazy that last fight was, the only ult that we may see is a Blizzard from Chime.
Overclock well in the way here for PGE, but they need to stay alive. They find a shot onto Abyss, almost a second, but they will build up the Overclock and now have it available for the final fight, of which may very well decide this Antarctic Peninsula. PGE finds one with theirs, Tap finds one of their own with a Pulse Bomb, and Amplify clean up in our final round of play. Also, the least close we've seen thus far, at least between these two teams, but Amplify nonetheless will take map number 1, and Rift have some catching up to do as Power Boost finds play of the game. I would have thought the hacked Ajax on the attempted sound barrier would have negated that possibility, but no, it was indeed the ult you were talking about, or the, well, just, no, it wasn't.
It was just getting a lot of assists. A lot of assists going, hey, with the fact of how often they were getting targeted by those hacks and EMPs, we'll give them it. We'll give them it this time. But Rift in a map that you arguably think they needed to win, just with how, you know, their series of map history is gone, does not go their way to start here. Granted, Amplify, this is the one control map they seem to be pretty consistent on. They are undefeated now on this map, 3-0 during the round robin on Antarctic Peninsula, but not the start that you would have needed if you are Rift. I think you need to win this next map because Amplify have a pretty good track record of winning Escort. Hybrid, not so much. So I think this is where you can bring it back. But Amplify, there was a slight worry in the back of my head. It's like, okay, you just lost a very close game against Worldwide. You're the first team to give them a win the entire round robin. How are your mental going to be going into a series that you need to win? It's a must win for both of these teams. Let's be real. It's a must win. If you lose this, you drop to 1-5. Your chances of getting top 8 and advancing to the knockouts, they're definitely not as nice as they would have been entering tonight. So a must-win game for these two teams, and now Amplify in a very nice position.
Hey, luckily, there are 5 teams at 1-5, so technically everybody has the exact same chances. At least everybody who's below 3-2 has the exact same chances of making it. I think Rift, with their strength of schedule, has the best chances, but if they lose just a couple games, they're losing it to teams of whom they are directly competing against for those spots, presuming, of course, they don't lose to Good Boys or Timeless, of which they probably need wins there. There are difficulties here for Rift, but Amplify, on the other side of things, still have a foothold. They have the best tiebreaker as of right now, but again, we're still only halfway through the round robin, almost exactly at the culmination of this map. But our second map has been decided. Numbani is where we are headed for map numero dos, and I'll give my thoughts in a second, but Jesse, I'm sincerely curious on yours.
I don't mind it, actually. It is a map that, yes, they lost against O3 Splash. They lost it 1-0. But it is also a map that they have film on against Amplify. Because Amplify lost this map to O3 Splash 3-2. They also lost this map to Pip 5-3. They did beat Good Boys on it, though. So it's a map they at least have a lot of film. This is the only hybrid that we've seen Amplify play, other than maybe what they played against Worldwide. I don't remember off the top of my head what hybrid they played there.
It was Numbani.
But it wasn't. Well, so this is the only one they've played. So it's not a giant. Okay, so it's not a giant mistake here. I do think this is a map you at least know exactly what you're going to get, and this goes into your best strength if you're a Rift with that Winston dive. It's their best look. It's their most consistent look as well. So this is, I think, perfect choice for them to try and at least avoid going down 2-0.
A difficult position, at least for Rift here, is they've had some challenges on it. They lost to Wisp 3-0 in the series and 3-0 on Numbani itself. They played Saints. It was the only map they won, but they won 3-2 in a 1-3 loss in the series. And then they lost to O3 Splash. You said it, it was only 1-0. And against the, well, at least as of right now, undisputed best team, because it's the only undefeated team. A pretty good showing, but on a singular map and in a singular series, of which they just could not keep sustainability in. But if they've done their homework on Amplify, and they may have even taken a look back at Numbani from our previous series, because Amplify finished after this Rift squad did, they could have background, they could have exactly what they need coming into this second map, or it could go horribly wrong and Amplify just show up because they decided to go out to lunch for map 2 of our previous, or their previous.
Yeah, honestly, I could see all the above. I could see all the above happening as we see both teams starting to roll out. Echo will actually be shown for the first time. Not the first time, but I would say to start off for the first time in a series for us. We saw it a little bit more in Amplify's previous series against Worldwide. We saw Tap run it a bunch, so it's not a huge shock, especially with the verticality of this first phase of the map. Echo is just a must pick to try and finish off, to help either with the counter dive or the dive from yourselves. And Power Boost will give up the Lucio for now. They will go over to the Brig as they know Buddy will need that support on the Ana just to try and keep them up. So we got a full mirror match on our hands.
I gotta say, when it's not Circuit Royale, I'm a massive fan of mirror matchups. Especially when it comes to high versus low ground setups and you're not seeing a Bastion or snipers. No Ashe coming through, I have to say, a little surprisingly, especially considering how consistent an Echo is, but X10 has been a very staunch factor on that Tracer. The dive just coming through from Rift. Unfortunately, Abyss will be the one to fall. They try and find the kill into Disco, or Doge, sorry, but they cannot find the finish. Chime does drop PGE in the background, but is that enough to negate the loss of your main support? For a tick, it is not.
I would say for a tick, no. I think they do go back into this, obviously. They're just getting ready. It will be X10 who will just start this off, and now Abyss is back. The rest of the dive will come through, and I don't Amplify play this too heavily.
Over-aggression not seemingly there just yet for Amplify. Good anti, though, lands on towards Doge. They're forced to disengage, but for the time being, still alive. Tap stuck in thin air. Does not fall. It's actually Chime to lose that fight. Apparently a grounded Echo, not good for business on the Rift side, and oh my, Amplify just clean up from there. They will win, and they will take the first point.
Nice and clinical there from Amplify. They, like I said, they don't aggress there right away, but they just wait for Astronex to make the smallest mistake. They try and dive onto that back high ground, and there is just the squad waiting for them up there, and Amplify able to close them out, and at that point slowly pick through the rest of Rift. And now Chime, yeah, just trying to kind of poke away at Doge, trying to deny the space, but there's not a whole lot they can do, and 4.5 minutes is a pretty decent time bank, especially when you didn't have to throw an ultimate in to win the point.
Ooh, Pulse Bomb misses though, and that's a little bit of dedication. Somehow the grenades land onto Doge and they'll fall. It seemed like a disconnect. Doge just stopped moving, but may not have wanted to risk the rest of their team's lives in that one. Luckily, Rift will sustain for the time being, but a Pulse Bomb to return does damage onto Power Boost, but does not find a kill. Tap drops Chime, but Astronex with one to return will leave Amplify with some sustainability in this fight. And Doge just dedicating themselves into that aforementioned backline will find a Primal Rage as well. Tap will duplicate the Winston just the same, so you see two separate monkeys in the backline, but only one of them will come out alive, at least for one team. The Nano goes through on towards Umitra again just to keep them alive, but it seems like the Battle Brig out in full force here for the Rift defense, as they will take a very long and drawn-out fight in their favor and hold for the time being.
I like the call from the Nano there from Abyss. Like, you know you're not going to be able to live there if you're Abyss. Your days are numbered, but you throw the Nano onto your other support to try and make sure they stay alive and they can keep everybody up, but also a ton of offensive value. But Amplify, knowing that, hey, the Ana's not there, they can take advantage of that and get this car eerily close to the end of the second phase.
It's a very well-timed duplicate for Chime. They may not survive all that much longer, but they kept some sustainability. Umitra will fall just the same. Nice aim here for Tap. They will not allow anybody some hold on that far side. Astronex slept. Will hold for the time being with a Primal out, but a very weird defensive setup. Amplify is over towards Defender spawn. Somehow Doge is on the high ground and Astronex is dead. Okay, I guess.
Yeah, they're able to pick off Umitra and Abyss early. So yeah, Amplify to kind of try and take advantage of that. The pulse lands on to X10 of all people.
Somehow Return to Sender has now been embodied in the game of Overwatch 2. Amplify will get a second tick, but it took them a little bit longer than they would have liked. They also are hunting for a backline. PGE finding Abyss. Ana will not come back into this one all that much quickly, and everybody's over towards spawn doors. It is a spawn door competition, I suppose, and they'll touch them, but they won't do all that much past killing Abyss.
Yeah, there's not a lot going on, just a little bit of memery going on, but Amplify have pretty decent resources still. Power went back onto the Lucio to try and get back point to win it, so they will stick it now, at least for the foreseeable future. Is the finish goes through and just this backline is just getting melted every fight, man.
There's no way for them to hold, and they haven't made any switches. The definition of insanity, trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Rift apparently do not have Merriam-Webster's handy in their backline because it is falling at every nook and cranny of Numbani. Amplify will complete it with 3 minutes and change left on that clock. I don't know if a C9 was really there.
I think Power Bruisers is trying to win the mental game. They're playing the long mental game, especially after the near cyberbullying that happened over in Antarctic Peninsula.
Hey,
but
you get hacked out of a sound barrier.
That's
all I'm saying. That's really funny.
That is true. If you're an outsider, if you're him, speaking from experience as someone who's got hacked out a sound barrier multiple times, it's not fun.
I have a great solution to avoid getting hacked out of a sound barrier.
Just get
Don't
better.
Play Lucio.
Well,
genius idea. I have never been hacked out of a sound barrier.
Okay. Well, you're also a soldier. So, Amplify, I guess the catch-22 for this, for Rift, was, yes, you have a lot of film on Amplify going into this. Amplify are also very well practiced against teams higher in the standings on this map, and they've actually done pretty well against those higher-up teams, so was it a risk for Rift to go to this map? Yes. Could they still turn it around? Absolutely. But Amplify is looking very clean on their executes on this map, and it just seemed like they could do no wrong, and Abyss and Yamitra, they were fighting for their lives every single time. It started off with Abyss right here, right where Buddy is standing now, and it just never really got better other than that one fight in second phase.
It's really only one sign of life, as you mentioned. If that does not change here, we will see a fairly quick end, about 4 minutes of an end to this Numbani second map, and we'll make our way to Escort fairly quickly. One that you'd have to expect Rift would probably go to Circuit for yet another attempt at it, even though it didn't go all that well in our previous series. Different opponent. It's a different map as well. Hopefully things change for them, but they still need to find an entryway in. Buddy, of all people, has been antied in the back line. They try the dive, but it doesn't work. The return dive, however, Doge looking for that opposing Ana. They're now hunting for a Brig, of whom they do damage to, but cannot find a finish on either one. Both Echoes will fall, one at the hand of the other will fall to X10, but in the end of the day, everybody's right back to even, and I feel like we're in Coliseo in our previous series.
Yeah, just a lot of poking and prodding, not a lot going on so far. Buddy just chilling in the back, able to try and build up this Nano. Abyss already some pressure going on to them, but Yamitra, other than just sending some armor packs, haven't really been able to do a whole lot quite yet.
Power Boost in a somewhat similar position. Focusing beam for both does miss, but Chime will make it down alive this time. Astronex is similar notion, but only barely. They make it out with about 100 HP, but they will pick up a mega health pack and survive for the time being. But Rift, a minute and 20 seconds gone. Just now, the first ultimate of the round has been built up. It is one of the easiest to do so in Abyss's Nano. They still haven't done all that much around it. Astronex on 70%, Chime and X10 around 80 at that, but Amplify have both of their DPS ultimates up. Doge and Buddy very close to theirs as well, and this fight will be everybody trying to press Q before the others can build up their ults. Tap will duplicate the opposing Winston once more, this time to significantly more success, but while they're focused on the backline of Rift, it seems like Rift have just dedicated themselves to Amplify's defense. The support line will fall. Primal Rage used before that duplication expires, and Tap will find damage, but cannot find a finishing blow. And somehow, Rift have all 5 players still alive, and have only used their support ultimates to cap first point. I have no idea how they did that.
Well, I can tell you a rough idea how they did it. As Chime gets Nano, they instantly dive on the high ground, X10 to follow. Well, I think Astronex as well was in there, at least for a little bit. And they just pump all the damage in it seems like Buddy dies right away before they can get the Nano off. Power soon to follow. Neither their support ultimates were able to get used during that fight. At that point, Amplify is playing with, time that is not really there. No heals is only going to work for so long, and Rift at least have a workable time bank, I would say, especially if they can finish second phase in quick succession.
Battle on 2 fronts, never a good idea. That one proves difficult to say the very least. Good stick though, Abyss will quickly be taken care of, and now's the time for Rift to either get in or get the heck out if they can. Chime will try a duplication, it will fail. The focusing beam, however, not so much. And Asterix uses that primal and is able to drop down their doppelganger of Doge. The fight, however, still in contention. Rally surprisingly used with nobody in the general vicinity. I don't know if Power Boost misclicked, fingered, or what. They're somehow still alive, antied, and now dead. A sleep onto Asterix, the most inconsequential one we've seen thus far in the Rift stream, because Rift have a better time bank moving into the third phase than Amplify did, even though they had a much more difficult first.
It's hard to tell if that was a misclick or if that was just them thinking there was slightly less Rift players there. But hey, correct, Rift, they converge on it very quickly. Abyss has oddly been quiet with the bio nades up to this point. It's part of the reason why they did so well over on Busan last series. So far in this one, haven't been able to find too many impactful nades, but that one finishes off Power Boost and finishes off second phase.
Asterix gets antied, but gets out. PGE making the switch onto the Ashe, albeit on probably the least likely of phases you'd see her played on a consistent basis, but the switch nonetheless comes through and they find an opening on towards Chime. That attempted focusing beam through a shield does not work, however, nice stickies will do at least justice for the time being. They're trying to play hide and go seek on this Rift side, waiting for Chime to come back, more stickies, more damage, but again, nothing really doing, at least for Rift to just chill.
Yeah, honestly, if you're Amplified, you are just happy to let the time go. You are in no rush for these fights unless you find someone in an inopportune position, then you're obviously going to try and take advantage, but there's no reason for them to try and take early fights and make a mistake. It seemed like Abyss had to get a little bit of a chauffeur there from X10 to get across, but eventually the attack will be in a spot where they can try and face this corner with both DPS and ultimates online.
There are 5 ults built up, 2 of them, now 3 already used, with 2 more on the way. Tap will win the first fight, they'll be able to take out their counterpart of Chime, and that may very well do it, but the dive into the backline, it somehow gives Doge their primal and will allow them to sustain for the time being. But everybody focusing down this Winston will cost them their life. The problem is it took so long that Asterix also falls. Attempted duplication, this one on towards the Ana, but a rally to counter. An Ana duplication to return well. It's who can play the Ana better. The answer for the time being hasn't been decided, but a sleep onto the Bob will counteract the Ashe in her entirety. Tap very lucky to be alive. A Bionade in the backline does not land onto Power Boost, of whom still living for the time being. You cannot say the same about Buddy. Asterix is in the backline, continually peppering damage. More and more damage, stunned but still primaled, and will have some support, but finally forced back as Doge will kick them out and Amplify win the fight. I see how these fights are going, but I do not understand how their results come to fruition.
Amplify just seemed to absorb all the damage that comes in there and just throw the counter punch, but just like that, Chime does the same exact thing. It was the rally that allowed Amplify back into that previous fight, and then just Tap being alive, finish it off, and now with Tap gone, the Rift take advantage.
Asterix finally gets their nano that they've been looking for. The Bionade lands, but everybody backs away. Amplify are playing hide and go seek with their health pools, and it's working. They're about to get some more support, but can they touch? No, not in the slightest. That, my friends, is a C9, as Rift will complete Numbani, and Amplify will have to play in OT to decide this second map.
It's hard to tell if Doge was designated there. You know, a few of them got body blocked on left spawn, but I thought Doge was going to touch, but I think they just went to the other side. They went over to the other side just to get healed up from the spawn door, but in turn, yeah, nobody's there to touch. So a nice little body block there from Rift to at least try and salvage the attack. You at least get some time, minute 19 compared to 3:06. It's obviously not ideal. You have to try and be a little bit quicker on your attack this time around. You can't really just wait and poke like you did on the previous, but it is still a workable situation. Amplify, you gotta think it's a little rough. I would say slightly rough to know you were in such a power position in this series, and now, and not the series, this map. I know you're at least a little bit more vulnerable, but I still think if Tap is playing the way they are, especially if they can get this opening pick on the defense, they've pretty much locked down map 2.
I have a sincere prediction that is, albeit conditional, but I think is going to come basically 100% of the time. If Rift are able to cap first point in this attacking set of OT, they will have enough time left over for their second round or second phase attack to pay off well enough to nullify the time bank advantage that Amplify had. Because Amplify just did not show up on their defense of the second phase. They just weren't there. It was the quickest second phase I think I've nearly ever seen on Numbani. So if Rift are able to cap first point, which was their main avenue of difficulty, they're in a much better aspect later, but they have to find an initiation tool, and here it is. Just everybody diving to the support backline again, and this time it works again. Buddy and Power Boost both fall. Good sticky grenades, but Tap still loses the fight. This is exactly what Rift needed. Everybody falls apart. Nobody's sticking around. And that first point's capped. Rift are in a much better position than their time bank would have originally entailed.
Yeah, we said you need to have a very quick fight. You can't poke around, and that's exactly what they do. They waste no time getting on the high ground. X10 and Astronex are the main ones to try and execute that dive. Chime sends some stickies in as well. And they also find Power Boost early.
Oh, no.
Astronex still battling for this high ground, and this is the snowball effect you need with such a significantly less time bank here if you are Rift. Now, OT will start here in just a moment. You will have Nano coming up. Duplication as well. Amplify, not as lucky, especially in the rally department. Power Boost only at 34% to that rally. We may not see that for a long time here as the cart starts to approach the midpoint.
This is the first fight where really push comes to shove. First real team fight as well, where everybody's in the same general vicinity, not fighting a fight on two separate fronts on this defense. Such low HP, but it will be healed up as they will get out for the time being. Doge being they for this attempt. Good sleep from Chime. They also weren't taken out of this on a duplication, and a follow-up sleep will land, as will a pulse bomb, but PGE still finds one of the Amitra. Abyss will fall just the same. That may very well be this overtime round coming to a very quick conclusion. It has to be a level of sustainability that just is not there for the attack. Astronex will pick up a Primal, will continue to tech in overtime, but they cannot find the damage required, and the boop off more than good enough for Amplify's defensive setup. Second phase, significantly better. Second time around.
4-3.
Yes, very better there from Amplify. I'd say it's workable, though, for Rift. It's workable. Like, it's not ideal by any stretch. You kind of wish that car would have at least got to that corner right there by the white car to a little bit easier of a position, because then you can really work with this back high ground, but it's doable for Rift. Amplify, it seemed like just early on, like, do you not expect them to go the same dive? Like, it just seemed like nobody was there for the peel at all, and by the time Tap got there to try and deal with Astronex, they were at half health because their supports couldn't see them, and they were already dead at that point. And yeah, their supports were already goners. Like, there was no helping them from the grave. So Rift, nice attack there on the beginning of first phase. Amplify now in the power position. Do you want to be able to try and bring this to a 2-0, even though you almost reverse swept in your previous series? Or does Rift tie this up to make this even more interesting at a battle, at the 1 and 4 teams right now, trying to fight for a spot in at least the upper half of the best of the rest?
Winner of this will be one of 2 guaranteed teams to be stuck at that 2 and 4 position. Other than that, it is just a toss-up for the rest of the squads, at least coming into round number 7 next week of play. Amplify need a fairly quick first phase. Their second, not the most ideal, but where they were held up is past that orange box of victory. Yellow, gold, whatever you want to call the color. But it's still a difficult position for Rift to hold down. They want to try and play aggressive. They want to try and play for early engagements, but if they overcommit like Astronex just has, it could cost them the majority of their health pool sooner rather than later. Everybody still playing that poke and prod game for the time being, but Amplify will back up and then it will just reinitiate as a squad. Good stickies, but they are returned. Tap, however, falls, as will Yamitra. Astronex antied? A good recall, but Abyss is dead, and that may very well be the defense gone because they just do not have any healing. They also don't have a backline, of which is just continually being accosted.
They might be able to re-aggress here if they can just try and find an avenue for X10 to go in and stall for just a second, because now Mitra is back. Abyss will be back in just a moment. X10 is able to stall it out, and now Astronex will be able to jump in.
Venn diagram of bubbles, but for the time being, it's Doge to hop on the lesser side of things, and X10 will land the shot they needed. Chime will duplicate yet another support hero. This one, the Brig, a little bit less of an ideal situation, but they're okay for the time being. Surprising Nano used onto Tap, who's looking for the backline, but the stickies are only landing on the shields, and they've done very little with the massive ultimate dedicated to their damage output. They've done a whole lot of nothing, as a matter of fact, other than build up what would have been close to their duplication. Asterix again dives onto the backline with a Nano of their own, this one proving significantly more fruitful. Business majors on the Rift side as the return on investment just simply better. And Amplify, they have not even capped first point yet.
And now they have just roughly the time bank that Rift did as they entered into first phase. And honestly, in a way, I feel for Tap, because you try and go in there, and usually one Brig's annoying enough to deal with. You got two Brigs you had to deal with, because Chime was duplicated onto Power Boost at that point. So Amplify not able to break through. They have the Primal Rage more for stall. Tap is the big one here. If they can try and duplicate onto Astro, get the Winston dupe, and do the double dive with Doge, they should be able to find either Ymitra or Abyss.
Said it's the duplication of the Ana, again looking for anything they can, but they've now been found out, and everybody's just playing avoid the line of sight of the now duplicated support hero. They try to ping-pong that Ana up as they go for the aggression on Doge's side, but they don't have any help in the backline. Finally, you'll see Tap sent out of that duplicated form. PGE finds a double, looking for a third. The rally, however, not available there for the Rift defense, and everybody will collapse off the back of it. Good stick, and they will finally cap, but with no time remaining. This game will finish in OT one way or the other.
Even though Ymitra, Abyss, and Astronex all get far spawn near the end of the map, so a lot of space here for Amplify to work with going into this potential final fight. PG's gone onto the Bastion as a last-second swap to try and deal with the dive of Astro. Has not called this out to the team. They might be in trouble if they commit ever so too slightly to it. Nano as well from Buddy here. Almost alive to send in Doge to build up that another Primal.
Uh-oh. Nano, Dupe, and Pulse Bomb all available for Rift. Amplify only have the Nano now built up, but PGE finds the opener, and Chime will have no opportunity to use that duplication. The Pulse Bomb misses. PGE, however, will not. And the bot, it seems like it works to near perfection for the attacking side of Amplify. Two players between them and guaranteeing a 2-0 start here on Numbani. Turret form back online. Turret form not even required. Amplify, they lost 4-3 in their previous round of play. Right back here on this same map. This time, it's 5-4 in their favor and a 2-0 start up against Rift.
What a play. What a shot call there from Amplify to be like, no, we are going to run the Bastion late on. PGE as well on their defense was the hero. You find the pulse, you find the pick onto Abyss as well. And what a call there to be like, hey, no, we're going to run the Bastion. They get nanoed, they get pocketed to holy hell. And they just survive. They get stuck with pulse. You got a Nano Winston in your face, and yet you still live throughout the entirety. You get the picks that you need. You deny the dupe from ever even being a factor from Rift, and Chime is not able to get it off. And Amplify gets a match point, series point, and a Rift all of a sudden got in an ever so familiar position for them. They cannot seem to get in a good position early in these series, and you gotta wonder if it's gonna bite them again.
So many difficulties here for Rift, especially in this map. I think communication really came back to bite them when they were not on the attacking side. They had some difficulties third phase. They really just stalled out a lot more than I would have liked. Their time bank, I think, would have been a little bit more useful, but considering the time they had left, an extra 30 seconds really would not have done all that much in second phase, maybe gaining an extra corner, maybe having an extra fight, but again, they were already in OT by a decent margin. It would not have been all that much of a consequential extra time bank should it have come through. The problem I see for them was their defensive communication. I think in the play of the game, it illustrated it perfectly. PGE was able to find 2 kills from the backline without anybody even looking in his general direction. I think when that's the case, you have your support line collapsing at really no fault of their own, but the rest of the team losing out because of that. That's when you need to be tracking heroes rather than ultimates a little bit more consistently and figuring out where's this backlining Tracer, of whom was the bane of our existence as a Tracer or as a Bastion for some unknown reason. But hey, it worked. I don't care.
Hey, you gotta respect the call. Like that's honestly, you just gotta respect it. They did a really good job of denying Tap, though. Especially late on, like whenever Tap tried to go in for an engage, Chime was on them, trying to hit the stickies with the finishing beam. Astra was always looking for them as well. So you got one part of the two-headed dragon. You just weren't able to find the other one in time in a lot of these fights. And going over to Escort, again, map dependent, if it's not Circuit Royale, then you have, potentially a lot of the same issues that you have to deal with. If it's Circuit, it's just, okay, can your snipers do what they need to do? And last time, it just, Chronic took over the lobby when they played their last series. In a way, I don't think it'd be a horrible idea. Only because, well, never mind. That kind of answers my question. They're going to double down on them being confident in the Winston dive. They will go over to a Watch Point Gibraltar here for map 3.
Completely off topic. Pirates in Pajamas have just beaten Timeless. So,
okay.
That happened 3-0, by the way. That's
wow.
nuts.
Okay.
Well done, Pirates in Pajamas. For anybody sticking around here that was watching the stream, thanks for sticking around. Yeah, they just won back-to-back series against one team that was 1-4 and now one that is currently 4-2. Back onto the topic of Watchpoint Gibraltar, though. In our previous series, we did not see it. However, Amplify did. They played it, and they won it fairly convincingly. It was 2-1, but they won based off of just everybody alt-cycling properly. That was happening while we were finishing our series in the same time span. They've played it up against Afterlife. They won 3-1 when they played it up against them. They did not play it against Good Boys. They played Circuit Royale. They played it against Pirates in Pajamas and lost it 2-1 there. And finally, in week number 1, I've been going in reverse chronological order for all of you who have been keeping track. They beat 03 Splash 3-1, while also, similar to Rift, losing 3-2 in the series.
Yeah, so it seems like a lot of these teams, okay, we can beat this team, but not this team, but they also beat, this other team. It is such a weird hodgepodge of results, honestly, looking at it. And Timeless being swept by Pip, in a way, you could tell Pip was like, oh, no, we're hyped now. We are in the flow state. You're going to just take down this series. But Timeless is, a team we think is going to be pretty decent in this round robin. Going to 3-3. And we do, I think, a quick correction, actually. Wisp won, and Wisp lost to Strix 3-2. So both of them are sitting 3-2 going into their series currently. Strix going, I believe, on the mainstream against Saints. That is currently 1-1. For the other game, Wisp, it is 0-0 to our knowledge. We do not know where that game is sitting. But so far, man, it just seems like, yes, you have a rough top with like Saints, Pip, Flash, and then you just have a hodgepodge of every other team in this thing because it's honestly anyone's game depending on the day.
For if you're curious, mainstream has Strix Saints 1-1. They're on Watchpoint Gibraltar right now. Saints look like they may very well win things and force a fourth with them up 2-1. But as we move into Watchpoint Gibraltar, Rift need a win. It is win or out, I guess. Amplify, by far, it is not win and in, but this is a difficult position for Rift, because I'm not going to say if they lose this, they're out of playoff contention, because there are 4 other teams that are at the exact same record as them currently. And couple that alongside the fact that they still have to play 3 of them, not including Amplify, of whom they're currently playing, alongside Timeless, who just lost, and Good Boys, of whom has shown weakness. The later stages of their regular season run show some promise. But if they can't show some promise against a team that has the exact same record as them, I don't like their chances.
I think you gotta start hitting the worry button. I think that's where you're at if you're Rift. I will say, Amplify love playing close games. 4 out of their 5 games were 3-2, whether it be a win or a loss for them. The only one not going that scoreline was a sweep by Pip. I believe that was back in week 2. And not week 2, round 2 of the first week of play. So now, Xtend trying to change things up here a little bit, able to get the first pick as they are able to find their Ash counterpart.
Also, Rift being given the defensive side to start. I have to say, a little surprising. Lots of teams now choosing to start on the attack of hybrid or escort maps. Little notable situation, but I figured one to bring up nonetheless. Astronex still chilling around point. They don't want to give away this progress for free. If they're going to give it away, they might as well lose their Winston for it. Over dedication open over top, but it works. Anti lands onto Abyss. Imitra will fall as well, and that may very well be this fight done and dusted with the support line falling. Everybody else may very well be soon to follow. But hey, Astronex brings one back onto PGE, and they're not done with this point just yet, but they don't have a choice anymore. They're all dead.
Yeah, now they're done with it, for sure. As Astronex, just try and stall a little bit there. Try and at least get this to a point where even if you're a little bit late, the rest of your team will be able to be there. As you know, they're already back. It's not even like they worried at all about it. But now, can you actually get a quality touch in? Now you can go in. Yes, bubble is down, but that bubble will be quickly broken. That nade in your back line is not going to help.
Chime, I believe the only one hit with that, actually finds more damage onto Doge than you could ever imagine with Tracer's Akimbo pistols. The kill there, and everybody just backing away off the back of it. But a good pulse bomb drops down Abyss and will have a reinitiation ability for Amplify much quicker, because look at how quickly Doge is already back.
Yeah, they're already sprinting back, and now it is a 5v4 in favor of Amplify. They were almost at some ultimates as well, and that nano should seal it.
Anti to the back line, the sleep well timed onto Doge. The nano in the background has no further effect, but everybody will fall anyway. Doge finds a double. PGE with the coach gun, no less, is able to drop down Astronex and the anti just to initiate 3 of those. Rift have some ultimates, but they have a lot more difficulties than they do ults built up.
Yeah, the problems just keep on arising, and it seems like Ymitra especially is target number 1, and every single one of Amplify's dives, and they just seem to not be able to stay alive, whether it be, I don't know if it's just Abyss missing the shots, they're finding Ymitra alone, they are just having a very rough time.
Oh my gosh! A 4-player anti lands on the Ymitra, Abyss, Astronex, and X10, of whom 3 are dead. Astronex is only alive because they have that primal rage built up, and PGE is keeping them at arm's length with the coach gun. The second burst of that, however, not quick enough. Astronex finds 1 only, but it's enough to sustain, and Chime in the background fights Tap, no less. I don't know how in the world they survived through that one. The recall good, and Amplify, even though they find 3 unresponded kills, will not be able to complete the second phase.
That is a nice little stall from Astronex to try and stall it out. You pick off PGE, but especially Chime as well. You find the back line. You find Tap, like you said, with a nice little shot, and you at least salvage what, yes, this cart went 60 meters, but it's still in an okay spot for you to play around.
Astronex gonna go in. I think we found our answer. Nano used. Sleep, however, again found, this time on the other side. Astronex will have most of that nano ability gone by the time they wake up from their, well, medically induced or Ana-induced slumber on that far side. Shots still over top, and more damage done to the Astronex, of whom has some help. But a Bob now dedicated fairly early into this fight, only extends as far as the point, so doesn't have all that much help past it, but Chime will still fall. Ymitra in a similar position as Amplify will find 2, again, unresponded kills. And Rift having so many more difficulties. Abyss dead to a headshot, and Anti lands, but I don't think it's going to be all that much of a difference maker, as Amplify will cap second point anyway, and Rift just cannot find that foothold.
Doesn't that seem a little familiar, huh? A little familiar to us over on Numbani. Is Chime just try to make something of it. They know they're not getting out, so try and force something out late. As X10, they will stay on this Ashe, actually. Maybe a little surprised they're going to stay on it, considering PGE is over onto the Sombra now, trying to make Astronex's life even just a little bit more difficult, if it wasn't already difficult enough. And similar to Numbani, a lot of time, over 3 minutes here for Amplify to work with in the final third of the map is, yes, Chime lands the ball, forces the retreat, actually finishes the kill.
What a follow-up from Chime, just a casual blink around the corner, and Doge is quickly taken care of. The problem is, again, they've given up basically 60 meters for very little. Pulse Bomb used in return, but it only lands onto the shield of the Brig rather than anything further. Rally dedicated, no less. They want to try and drop down Astronex as soon as they can, because they're about to have help from Doge, of whom now joins the fight. And Tap just walking in. Buddy doing the same, as Chime will be the first one to fall. A follow-up on Ymitra. Flashbacks to the previous fight, flashbacks to Numbani, and it may very well be deja vu all over again. Primal Rage dedicated here for Asternex, but how much can they really find with it? They're still stuck in the background. There will be a touch, but there's very little time left on that ultimate built up. They try to throw in the nano, but a hack has come through to really nullify the damage done off the back of that Winston. A jump into thin air here for Doge, still sticking around as they get a nano of their own. Chime doing damage with the Akimbo pistols, has a pulse bomb they want to throw in. They can find a target to do so. But Amplify, they've just backed away.
Yeah, Stomp
they're
reset,
back.
but they're still sticking around. Yeah, they're trying to see if anybody will over-aggress. That might be the stop to that, though. Pulse bomb on the power boost. They will be gone, and it seems like Rift have stopped the bleeding for now, as Amplify will retreat, but a nice push there for Amplify. A minute and a half left, and you just got this little bit of the newly revised ending of Watchpoint to go. And Rift, you don't got a whole lot to work with. Yes, you have the bomb, but that can get hacked or slept by Buddy and PGE, so that'll just be maybe a distraction more than anything else. You gotta find something there from Chime, who has really been silenced by Buddy here in the later stages.
Tap also has their pulse bomb built up. It's really the only ultimate to note thus far here for Amplify in this fight. A sure EMP on the way, Primal Rage and Rally just the same, but it has to be a good opening, and one they're having difficulties find, especially with Rift staying so far away. Lots of time bled off of this clock, and a nano into a non-existent backline, but the sleep still lands. Buddy counting their lucky stars that Asternex has no further effect on them. A follow-up attempt, and they're slept again? No, that was
I think the feed was, yeah, the feed was behind a little bit there. I think for whatever reason, is now Astro goes back in. They have the Primal they can use, but they won't need it. Chime's able to find two. X's able to find another one as well. And even though, yes, your Nano with the Winston doesn't get anything, your DPS are able to clean up. And you don't even need to use the Bob there, which is a huge plus if you are Rift.
Yeah, but there's still 4 ultimates available here for Amplify. There's 2 currently, 2 more certainly on the way, if not going to be guaranteeingly brought up and built up for their final bout of aggression here in this final and third phase. It's going to be a 3v4 in terms of ultimates, with Amplify on the better side of it. Rift having some difficulties, but they still have some sustainability and some counterability as they go forward. EMP used. PGE, however, is slept, but gets out as soon as they're woken up. That translocator paying off, but X10's Bob even better. A follow-up from that lever action rifle finds a second, and that may very well do this fight justice, as Amplify is forced into the back line, Doge forced away, and PGE the last one to stick around. Overtime will bleed off that clock, and Rift will give themselves a win condition here to stay alive.
That was a beautiful end fight for Rift. It was just slowly able to bring it back. And I will say, X10, they've been pretty quiet tonight, all things considered, but you know, the previous Vancouver Titans Blue and Strix Bad Blood player for calling out heroes, definitely showing up here in the later stages on the Ash. The Bob there at the very end was a nice little icing on the cake. But they try and use the EMP there from Amplify, from PGE onto the backline. It only lands onto Abyss. They try and land onto both supports, but because it does not land on Ymitra, they're able to pop the rally. It gives Abyss just enough extra health to stay alive, and that is how Rift are able to flip that fight around. They throw the Bob, able to take out Tap immediately, and Amplify don't have the answer for it, and will have to settle with that cart just not getting to the finish line.
So close, yet so far, at least as of right now. If you look at Amplify, though, I think their defense is going to be a little bit better than... I think the counter dive may work out for Rift. I said their communication was much better back in our second map of Numbani. That has to be the case here. If it's not, simply, this is over, this is done, Amplify will win 3-0. But if they find a good start, they're even bringing out the Symmetra to get across to the counter high ground. They're completely countered. And, yeah, Chime will quickly switch.
Yeah, I think that was just to get Ymitra and Abyss on the high ground. Like, just get them on the high ground, get them set up, X10 as well, and you just try and play the long game from there as Chime eventually back into this. It's just a poke battle here in the high ground that nobody's really won to this point.
Asterix is taking a decent bit of damage. Abyss and Dimitra does mean they have built up some of their ultimate. Cool, nice shot from X10, but they are immediately traded upon. A Tracer for an Ashe. I'll let you be the judges of who comes out on top of that trade. Dedication from Asterix, but fighting again. A battle on two fronts here for the Rift side. They want to try and drop down the Brig, of whom has locked herself in the room with the monkey, but luckily they've made it out alive for the time being. The rest of the team, oh, you can't say the same for Rift. Dimitra dead, follow up onto Abyss, dead. Asterix almost dead, has to back into the spawn doors. Do they even make it out alive? Maybe?
Maybe?
Yeah,
they should be able to.
Asterix.
They're just hiding right below where we can see, I believe, right now. Just playing by bridge, but able to at least stay alive. No, they're in spawn. Yeah. Amplify, nice with patience, though. Try and poke and prod. Don't get too overzealous. Continue to control by blue box. It's trying this entire time. Been pushing this car. At least gets it to 60 meters, but at this point, you need the rest of your team to get out of the spawn area to try and join you, but that high guard control still in Amplify control.
Jump in again. Doge is not giving it up ever so easily, almost finding the kill across onto Dimitra, but they will be slept out of it. Buddy will die, however, in that process, and pretty good start here for Rift. But the Primal will negate a lot of the damage done, and everybody just disengages. They're trying to play for another fight. With this Primal on the board, they're able to. Another boop away. Doge will be forced down, but they'll survive for the time being.
Yeah, able to get out, get some nice little healing there from Power Boost, who should allow them to build that rally. But now, both teams have rally and Nano online. Bomb sent it early from PGE just to force the Primal.
Early Primal here for Asterix, but they are the second one to use it between themselves and Doge. Bob, the only ultimate of the rest used, as Amplify will dedicate it just to hold down this first point for the time being, but there's the Nano. The dedication from Rift, if they can find it the backline, it'll work out to near perfection, and a Pulse Bomb onto Doge will drop down the monkey in that line of Rift. Everything they've needed to build up a decent bit of sustain, now pushed into their favor, and will still look to dedicate themselves, but it's only Tap touching, and Tap will quickly fall because of it.
Tap will fall down to a little love tap from Chime, and yeah, the rest of these staggers actually may be even worse than the point going for Amplify as Buddy is gone, Power Boost will soon follow, and so much real estate now is available to Rift. They will not get held like they were holding on their defense around the ship. They get full ship control, and it forces PGE a swap. X10's been winning the Ashe duel, and they will try and get onto the Sombra to try and at least punish Astro a little bit more, who has been honestly bullying the backline of Amplify just a little bit more than they have been in the previous two maps.
Nano, surprisingly dedicated for this high ground, but Doge can't do a dang thing about it. They're just not doing enough damage. They have no help on the high ground, more than enough support for that Rift attack. And yeah, there's the jump up from Doge. They've done a whole lot of nothing other than being forced back. But on the low ground, however, Chime is dead. Power Boost wins that fight on the Brig, no less. Hack goes on towards Asterix, of whom gets anti, but again, dedicates their Primal, of which they built up in fairly quick fashion, and they'll drop both of the support line here for Amplify in the process of using it. Almost a third on the Tap, of whom will get out for the time being, but PGE having Translocate out, that gives Rift even more space to work with.
Yes, and they at least know that PGE is fully out. They know they're not lurking around. Tap, on the other hand, is waiting for a touch. And there is PGE, actually. He builds up the EMP if they need to use it, but only 2.5 meters to work with.
Asterix is dead. That's the problem. They have no way back in here on the Rift side. 2 minutes still on this time bank, but 2 minutes gone from their attack. They've made fairly good time, all things considered. But you have to also have to remember, can you hold as much as you're trying to do so? Doge slept, Primaled, attempts to try and get back in, but really doesn't have the healing to try to initiate it, considering how large that hitbox is. They'll still go for it, though. Off the back of an EMP, a perfectly timed jump in and initiation from Amplify as a whole. But Doge still falls. Luckily for them, the rest of Rift will join him in that grave on the second phase, and Amplify will hold still.
What a beautiful setup there from Amplify. PGE is just waiting to use that EMP. Doge does the initial jump up that they still had at the very end of Primal, and because they get another leap when they go back into traditional Winston form, they just go right on in.
Hello.
Finish it up. Well, and a nice little 2-kill there from Tap, and that just denies this fight right away. Rift got to wait even longer to give it another shot.
That's perfectly timed as well, because it allows the rest of the ultimates that Amplify were building up, notably the Rally, to really set in and give themselves comfortability in creating that fight plan. Detected is PGE in the backline, they'll have to translocate out again, but there's really only a minute left, and Rift are okay with this, but Amplify more than happy with our current position.
Oh, very happy with where they are. This cart's at least backed up a little bit. It has to go around that last bit of the S curve before it actually gets to the end of second phase now. So a good, 15, 20 meters. Rift out to regain, but Rally Force, because of the Primal, not the Primal, the Nano Winston, they'll dive right back in, try and build the rest.
But both Winston's Nano, just to try and build up that Primal, both are at about 90% as well. Doge very lucky to be alive. A Bob dedicated here for Rift, but the return Rally for Amplify, they've been holding on to it, and it's going to work in their favor, keeping themselves in this fight and close with the Bob still online. They have to still worry about it. They have to still keep an eye and keep cognizant of the ultimate, but the Pulse Bomb misses. The most important one to try and gain that free kill does not bear fruit. And Amplify still just sticking around. Primal dedicated here for for Doge, as it's just the same for Astronex. PGE in the backline with the EMP available if they need it. They're looking to try and find as many players with it as they can, and they do. Now 2 separate players found, including the former Primal Astronex, of whom's on one singular point of health. Tap from a distance, trying to pepper in as much damage as they can. X10 will fall, Chime soon to follow. It's Abyss left alone on an island, no less. And Amplify, well, they've much bettered their position here in the Summer Series. Contenders, at least round 6 goes to them, as they will 3-0 the Rift and send them down to a singular win through 6 rounds of play.
A rough pill to swallow there for Rift. We said this is a game you need to win, I felt like, from both sides. And it's just Amplify turning it up to 11 in the very end of these fights. And it has seemed like, yes, even though parts of Rift are in decent positions to actually try and take advantage of the fight, their supports are just getting pushed around in the back. They can't see him, so they can't heal him at all. They can't, send a Bionade, send an armor pack, even a little flail to get that extra little brig healing. There's just nothing, especially in that last fight. You could tell Rift want to go, like they want to dive in, but it's Doge just in the backline constantly, not allowing Rift to do anything. Amplify improved to 2-4. They at least keep a pretty decent chance to scave out a top 8 finish. Rift, on the other hand, 1-5. They really need to take advantage now of these other games against the bottom half of the table if they want to be able to squeak into knockouts.
Yeah, and some more results from around the Summer Series as well. O3 Splash have won 3-0 in their matchup up against the Dragon Dance squad. That one, I can't say I'm too surprised about, but
Yeah.
I mean, Dragon Dance still having difficulties even putting up numbers where they can find them. Around the rest of the group stage, I talked about Timeless losing 3-0 to the Pirates in Pajamas. Everybody else still seems like they are playing their round 6 matchup, including the mainstream. If you want to, oh no, I lied.
Here we
Speaking
go.
of round 6 matches, Saints have actually won 3-1. I just saw that on the mainstream, so we have that update. Afterlife is still playing Worldwide. Wisp is still taking on the Good Boys. I have a feeling that I know the result of Afterlife Worldwide, but I won't give it away just yet. Mainly because it's not a guarantee, and it's all a presumption based off the first 2 maps. But reverse sweeps happen, so you never know.
Yeah, you never know. It just seemed like round 6, it's a sweep nation almost. As 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-1, potentially another 3-0 with Afterlife coming up. Round 6, not as close as round 5, but Amplify definitely feeling at least a little more confident in where they sit now amongst the rest of the group, as it's workable now. Their next few games are in a doable situation. You play Timeless, who just lost tonight, which it will be a rough game, but if they can try and win early in that series, they might be able to squeak it out. And then they play, I should have known this as I was about to say it, but they do end up playing Dragon's Dance in the last match of tomorrow. So should be another nice game there for Amplify, who at the moment sit 8th. Rift sit down in 10th. So a lot of work to do for both of these teams heading into the second half of round robin, but obviously a lot of potential here for both of these two teams to at least move around just a little bit.
You can take a look at our updated standings, at least as updated as they can be right now. Saints are also 5-1. They just won their matchup. If I have done my looking around correctly, Strix would make them, I think, better than 2-4. It would make
No,
3-4.
it would be
Yeah,
yes, no, it'd be 3-3 because I believe that they beat
3-3.
Wisp.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
I
beat
think
Wisp
that's
earlier.
yep. So they'll be sitting at 7th. Same with Timeless. So we'll have to wait and see how that ends up. But that middle of the pack, it'll be O3 Splash 6-0, Pip at 5-1, Saints at 5-1, Wisp potentially at 5-1, and then a nice little break. Good Boys at 3-3, Timeless at 3-3. Well, I'm saying presuming Wisp beats Good Boys. And Strix at 3-3, and then Amplify 2-4, and it will be what? It'll be Afterlife currently at 2-4, Worldwide 1-5, Dragon Dance 1-5, Rift 1-5. It's getting pretty messy all over the place. At the top, it's getting interesting. At the bottom, it's getting quite messy. It should be a nice little fun last week here to figure out who actually makes it to the knockouts and who will have to qualify through open division come fall.
Yeah, and looking into more specifics as well. Amplify and Afterlife combining for the best of the rest. Rift going to be the best of the worst in terms of round and map differential. Only some difficulties found for them in these first 3 weeks of play. The first 6 rounds just not going in their favor. They won round 1, and since then it has been a whole lot of L's, and not the good ones either. Not given, rather. They've been taken. But there's still some sustainability for the rest of the team. The 2 teams that they play, in terms of the best of the good teams, are 5-6 as of right now. Would be 6-6, technically on ties, assuming Good Boys lose their game against Wisp. Again, presumptions are being made there. The remaining 3 matches they will play are against Dragon Dance, Worldwide, and Afterlife, between a few different rounds respectively. Amplify, they took a loss to. Strix, they beat, is the only team they've done so thus far, but they have lost to Wisp, Saints, Pirates in Pajamas, and O3 Splash. They've played all 4 of the top 4 teams, and unfortunately have not come out on top a single time.
This should be quite the interesting end to this summer series round robin, I will say. I am especially intrigued in Afterlife versus Rift. I think that will decide who is the very end of this, especially Afterlife versus Amplify as well. Just to see how all these kind of turn out, because honestly, at the bottom, I could see a lot of different outcomes for these teams. I should correct myself. Amplify Artsy actually already played Afterlife. I'm not sure why I'm saying that. I'm curious to see how that goes. So I'm very intrigued. Make sure you stay tuned. We got games going on tomorrow. We got 2 more for each team. And then 3 games next week. I believe 2 a week from today. 1 on that final Tuesday, which, depending on how games go, may decide a lot of things or may just decide seeding. We'll have to wait and see how games go at that point. But honestly, a pretty nice night. It's not as nice for Rift as they would have liked, but I think definitely some things that they could take away from this. Amplify as well, sitting in a much better spot than they were.
Yeah, and Amplify looking much better into this 6th round as well. They had difficulties up against Worldwide, but they made up for it in this 6th round. Rift have a lot to learn from. You either win or you learn.
Yeah.
They've done a whole lot of learning today. Hopefully they can take that into the final 5 rounds of play and turn their fortunes into a possible playoff victory and supposed fall series berth. Not a guarantee by any means if you make it into the top 8. However, when we send things away, a massive thank you to our production staff, Unfeatured, our producer, and Joey and Mara, our observers for the evening and into the night. And it's 11:30 on the East Coast, which means it is bedtime. We still have matches tomorrow, as Jesse mentioned, alongside 3 matches next week. If you want to stick around, don't forget to come back here or the rest of the broadcasts of the Timeless Broadcast Project as a whole, alongside the mainstream, twitch.tv/Overwatch Contenders for more North American Overwatch Summer Series Contenders action. I've been Time to Light. That's been Twin Salty. We'll see you tomorrow for some more Summer Series action.